the scandal relating to defective building blocks with mica and pyrite has devastated the homes and the lives of the families affected. This scandal has hit many areas across the state, but it is most acute in Donegal, in Mayo and in Clare. This scandal is a result of the light touch regulation and the reckless practices of the Celtic Tiger years. This is not the fault of the families concerned. It is the fault of those who are supposed to have their backs, who are supposed to be looking out for them. These families have been failed by the system and have been failed by the state. Taoiseach, these are people who have worked hard, who have saved hard to buy a home for themselves and their families, to secure for themselves what everyone deserves: a safe, secure roof over their head, a place to call home. Yet, through no fault of their own, they find themselves in a nightmare situation where their houses are literally crumbling around them. Meeting with some of those affected recently was a powerful experience for me, Taoiseach, and a heartbreaking one too. These are people who are at their wits' end. They are heartbroken. What's happened to them has taken its toll on their family lives, on their health, on their mental health. Everything many of these families own is falling in around them, and they go to bed at night wondering if their gable wall will collapse, or if the chimney on their home or a neighbouring home will fall down. But despite everything that they've been through, they remain strong and resolute. These are good people, Taoiseach, and they are determined to get justice. They are gathered here outside of this place today, here in Dublin, and they are welcome to Dublin to pursue this justice. And they deserve and need the support of everyone in this House, you and me and every TD here. I promised these families that we would do everything that we possibly could to advance their cause for a 100% redress scheme. And so tonight Sinn Féin lays a motion before the Dáil, and we're calling for that support, that these families, these homeowners are ensured to get 100% redress. That is what they deserve, and nothing short of that will suffice. The scheme that the government previously put in place is not working. It's letting people down. Under that scheme, Taoiseach, some families are expected to come up with up to €100,000 or more to contribute to fixing their homes. Who has that kind of money? It's incredibly unfair. The campaign and demand for a scheme that covers the cost of rebuilding their homes is right, and it is just. Bóileis na Chowley, scéma eáil, a clúdóí an costas of winning lena dithe a athógáil. Bheadh sé sin ceart. Is sé an tain réiteach cór atá ann, nó scéim sás of céad fan céad a thucrú. This nightmare needs to come to an end, Taoiseach. These families have been failed by the system and by the state, and the current scheme fails them again. They cannot be left in this situation. So the only fair solution for the government is to deliver a 100% redress scheme, and to do that urgently. So I want to ask you directly, Taoiseach, to give us and to give them a clear, unambiguous commitment that your government will deliver a 100% redress scheme.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Taoiseach, please.
First of all, could I say that what has happened to the homeowners in Donegal, indeed Mayo, Clare and elsewhere, but particularly the vast majority in Donegal, is scandalous. It is devastating for those homeowners. I visited one such home last week, the Murta family in Raphoe. Last year I would have seen at the outskirts of other houses. It is appalling what has happened. We all know the impact it can have on people to have one of the key objectives in life, to build your family home, the sweat, toil and effort that entails. and that being taken away from you by, in this case, by the supply of and provision of defective blocks. And could I say that the government's view on this, and my view, is that we will do everything we possibly can to help the homeowners and to refine and amend and change this scheme in consultation with the Micro Action Group, with a view to making sure we have a sustainable scheme that can bring these homes back and make them habitable for the families and give them the experience that they originally envisaged when they first took out the mortgage, when they first provided for themselves in getting a house built. I want to say in fairness that the previous government, working with the Mica Action Group at the time, did bring in a scheme in January 2020 in very good faith. In fact, it was accepted all round at the time. I can recall the Sinn Féin spokesman at the time, Padraig McLaughlin, welcomed the confirmation of the scheme back then, did identify some issues that he thought the banks should have been involved in helping. But it is fair to say that initially it got broad acceptance around. So I don't think assertions of bad faith in anyone is correct here. I think everybody wants to do the right thing here. We're interested in doing the right thing, and the Minister has written to Mica Action Group. He's spoken to them over the last number of days. I spoke with the Mica Action Group on Thursday. I had a meeting with them, with Donegal County Council, with the Director of Housing, with the Manager, with the Chairman of the group, Councillor Martin McDermott. And our view is we should set in train a time-bound process lasting about 6 weeks, involving Mica Action Group, representatives from the different counties, involving the local authorities and also the department, to work on the scheme and iron out all of the issues, because there's different issues applied to different homeowners. Because the figure of 100,000, nobody wants someone to be caught for 100,000. There's issues about upfront costs that have to be dealt with, I acknowledge that. There's issues around having to rent out while your house is being rebuilt. That has to be dealt with. But there are other issues also, and other supports that we may be in a position to provide. But I think we do have to do an analysis. As a number of applications have come in. And speaking to Donegal County Council, they were saying about 33% of those would have to be rebuilt. So I think an analysis of what's come in so far might give us a good picture in terms of how we amend and improve this scheme overall. I mean, motions will come and motions will go, but the work has to be done to improve this scheme and to make it one that ensures that homeowners can avail of it, get their houses rebuilt or repaired without any undue impact on them. The scale of this programme will be far in excess of any other programme entered into so far in excess. I mean, the department's estimates of the original scheme that was entered into in good faith was close to $1 billion. I believe we will go over that $1 billion. And just on the defective argument and so on, I think it's important also. The 31 local building control authorities have extensive powers of inspection and enforcement. The requirements of the building regulations and the EU directive and so on, there are responsibilities on on designers and on the builders of buildings and the suppliers of bricks as well that we can't lose sight of, and I just make that point. But generally speaking, we want to do the right thing by those who were let down by the provision of these defective blocks, which have rendered their homes in many instances unlivable and has created great anxiety. We want to help them, and we're going to do that.
Deputy McDonald.
Well, Taoiseach, let us agree that something went catastrophically wrong in respect of Mica and Pyrite. Catastrophically wrong with these blocks that were used to construct these homes. And let's also agree that those responsible for these catastrophic wrongs have to be identified and have to be held to account. I have no argument with you, and the people of Donegal and Mayo and Clare have no argument with you on that score. You have called this a scandal. You have said it is appalling, and you're correct on both counts. You have said that you will enter into a time-bound process to put things to right. And I welcome that, because we need to be timely and efficient. But what we also need to hear from you as head of government is that the scheme that will be landed on will represent, in reality, 100% redress. The last scheme may have been introduced in good faith faith, Taoiseach. But the truth is that that scheme has not worked. That scheme has left these families in misery, living this nightmare day after day, night after night, and that must stop. We know that the only sustainable, viable redress is 100% redress. So I want to invite you again to clearly state that the government will pursue and deliver in a timely fashion a scheme that is 100% redress. The people gathered on the streets of Dublin want to hear the Taoiseach confirm that. Can you confirm it for them, please, Taoiseach?
First of all, say, as I said earlier, motions and slogans won't solve this. And I had a very good meeting with the Mica Action Group last Thursday. As a result of that, I contacted the Minister again. I said, let's put in place a process here, because 100% of what? It's not as simple as asserted. And that came up in the conversations, a whole range of issues we've got to discuss in terms of the grant caps themselves, in terms of the allowable costs, engineering costs, upfront costs, how we can make it easier for the homeowners in this context. And that's what we want to do. And that is why the Minister has corresponded with the group. He has spoken to them. He is anxious to get this up and running as quickly as possible. Also consult with the Mica Action Group in terms of their issues and so on. And I would make the point that it was entered in good faith. Your own deputy welcomed it at the time, as did everybody else. And the government is absolutely committed to doing the right thing and will provide and is going to provide exceptional resources to make sure that we can make these houses livable again for the families involved in a way that ensures that the kind of impacts that have been suggested, and obviously as to working through of the scheme, has created a lot of issues and people have raised these. The submission was made to Minister Darragh at the end of April, and he's responding to
the time is up now.
Cairn, I want to object to the Taoiseach studiously refusing to answer a very straightforward question, Taoiseach. Very straightforward question for a 100% redress scheme. Please answer.
I've answered the question now, in fairness to the deputy.
No, you have not, Taoiseach, and that is very worrying.
With respect, I didn't. This is unprecedented, this kind of interventions at leaders. All I'll make the point is I'm not